Well, today it's been exactly 3 years since I've owned my 2014 Subaru BRZ, and I had to do some celebratory donuts. I wanted to talk about kind of an ownership overview of this car, why I still love driving it every single day, and just give you some thoughts, impressions on the modifications that I've done, and why I like driving this car as my daily driver throughout the year in Michigan so much. So first of all, let's go over what I've done to this car. I have 45,000 miles on it, 45,100 miles on it as of today. I drive it all year round, but to start off, the first mods I did to this car were a Corsa exhaust, which you can hear, and a Corsa intake. You can see in the engine bay here, there's that great big Corsa performance intake. It has a Donaldson air filter, and basically it doesn't really give you that much extra horsepower. We dynoed it, it gave me another 3 horsepower and pound-feet of torque. Not a major deal. And it doesn't really sound that different. Corsa gave it to me for free to test and put on this car. And it's nice because I don't have to replace the air filter until every about 60,000 miles, but performance-wise it doesn't really do a whole lot. On the other end of the spectrum, the exhaust is fantastic. I love that. We'll talk about that later. Other mods in the engine bay, engine stock. I got the crickets taken care of with a warranty service bulletin, and that's stayed perfect ever since. I got those fixed about 1.5 years ago. I also have Koni adjustable shock inserts. You can adjust the shock damping here with your special tool, and those are one of my favorite mods as well, just because it made the car ride so much better. Right out of the box, this was a little bit too stiff. The shocks were just a little bit over damped, and honestly, it wasn't that comfortable to drive on a daily basis. But the Koni shocks fixed that, and actually it rides a lot like the new 2017 Subaru BRZs and Toyota 86 that's out right now. Corsa exhaust. This has been by far my favorite modification. It sounds so good, it's comfortable, it's quiet, it's very livable. On highway there's no drone at all, and the exhaust honestly I think it sounds fantastic. One of my major deciding factors on buying this car was practicality. At the time that I bought this, this was my only vehicle, so I needed this to kind of do a little bit of everything for me. The biggest deciding factor on practicality for me is if I can fit my mountain bike in the back. And in this car, I can fit my mountain bike, my speed bike, my fat tire bike for winter riding, and a medium frame full suspension bike. All I have to do is just take the front tire off, throw the bike in there, the seat, everything fits, it's great. It takes about a minute to throw the bike in and take it out. It's super easy, and I probably throw my bike in the back 2 or 3 times a week at least. Sometimes I feel like I'm using this as a bike hauler. It's great. You can fold the back seats down, get a little bit more exhaust noise, and the car sounds a little bit nicer too with that. Right now I have it on the stock wheels and tires. I haven't driven a ton of miles on these tires, but I will say that they are by far the most enjoyable setup for me personally on this car. I have 3 other sets of wheels and tires. I have a set of winter 16-inch wheels. They're 16 by 5.5 with 195 skinny little winter tires on them. I have a set of track wheels and tires with Falcon Izzinis, RT615K tires, but they're 225s, the 17 by 8 wheel. Those honestly aren't nearly as fun to drive as the stock wheels and tires. There's something about the offset, something about the way this tire was designed with the suspension and chassis And I think the offset on these and everything is just correct. It really, really feels proper with this car. Next upgrade, of course, were brakes. I've gone through a few different pads and examples with this. I'm still on the OEM Subaru rotors, but I've settled right now on a set of Cosworth, their performance pads. So Cosworth makes a really good pad for the BRZ and STI and a lot of Subaru products. It's a really nice street pad. It doesn't work too well on track. You are going to get a little bit of fade if you're pushing it under hard lapping. And then I have upgraded fluid in here too, but the brake pads are fantastic. They have a ton of initial bite, really stellar brake feel. Another one of my favorite modifications. That's about it. Brakes, shocks, exhaust, I'm good. I'm even back on the stock tune. I used to have an open flash tune on this car. I was missing some of the low end torque, and it gave me a little bit more high end power, but on the stage 1 tune it wasn't really giving me a whole lot of torque. So I flashed it back to stock, and I'm very happy with it. I've got the back seats down, so you can hear the exhaust just a little bit more than normal. It's kind of an interesting exhaust note. At the lower RPMs, you get kind of a Subaru rumble, and then as you get up into the higher revs, it kind of changes into tone, and it sounds like a completely different engine. It's awesome. No headers, OEM headers. That pretty much covers all the mods. So to just kind of go over a couple things here, just kind of based on my ownership experience with this car. Probably my favorite thing about it is just being able to get into it and enjoy every single drive that I take in this car. It's fun to drive to the grocery store. It's fun to drive on a road trip. The only place where it really kind of doesn't do well is on a back road, just because it lacks the power. I used to have more fun in my GTI on a back road, for example. Another situation is it works on Michigan roads, especially with these Koni shocks. This is a pretty bumpy road that I kind of took this on purpose just now, just so we can experience what the ride quality is like. And it's not too bad. It's not bouncy like the OEM setup was, and it's generally pretty forgiving ride quality wise. Another thing, this being a really low sports car, I haven't had any issues with ground clearance. I never have to really pay attention to curbs or speed bumps or large, uphill ramps into a driveway. That's really nice. I appreciate the fact that I can, even though this is actually a really low car, the front bumper on this is lower than a lot of other vehicles out there. On stock ride height, I don't really have to worry about a lot of scraping or anything like that. So in 45,000 miles, I've really only had two problems with this. The first was the crickets. That was kind of an issue from the get-go, and most FRS's BRZs have had that issue. It's pretty much been taken care of now. If you have an FRS or a BRZ, you have the crickets. It's just a fuel pump. Go to the dealer, get it fixed under the service bulletin, and that'll take care of the issue. I know some people have said it hasn't taken care of the issue, but they've got it pretty well worked out as of now. The other problem I had was the steering rack mounts. One of the bolts came loose and was rubbing against one of the mounts, or something was going on where it almost sounded like an end link was bad, and there was just a little bit of a looseness in the steering wheel that I could feel. It wasn't a safety concern, but it was something that just kind of got vibrated loose over time and just needed to be tightened back up. But that's it. no other problems. I do oil changes every 5,000 to 7,000 miles. I put Enos, the Sistina, the 0W20 in here. I get 31 miles to the gallon on a daily basis, and on road trips I've gotten as high as 36 miles to the gallon, cruising at 70, 75, 80 miles an hour. The gas mileage in this is great. I do have to put premium fuel in it, but overall I'm really happy with just the level of cost per mile that the BRZ has afforded. It's really been a very inexpensive car to own. It doesn't go through a lot of brakes. It doesn't go through a lot of tires. Tire wear on these stock wheels and tires has been absolutely fantastic. Really just no complaints. There isn't really a whole lot I don't like about this car. Even honestly, for the street and even for the track, the power level is just fine. The only time, again, when the power kind of shows when the lack of power kind of rears its head is on a back road where you want that torque and you want immediate power at low revs. So another really big reason why I bought the BRZ was so that I could have a car that I would learn how to drive on track with. And I wanted something that's rear wheel drive. A great thing about this car is it works right out of the box on the racetrack. The brakes can hold up for a few laps, but all you have to do is upgrade pads and fluid, and you've got a nice car that brakes well and is very well balanced. And although some BRZs have tended to get a little bit hot on track, it's okay if you do a few cool down laps, or if you're just learning, you're not going to be pushing the car 10 tenths necessarily all the time. You can always get an oil cooler and most of your cooling issues are solved. I was able to track this car decently well without any problems for, I've probably done about 10 track days in the BRZ overall, and the car's held up great. No issues. It feels really good on track. It's a lot of fun to drive, even just on the stock wheels and tires, especially on the stock wheels and tires, because the car actually moves around a little bit and has a pretty high level of grip as well. There's just something about this car that I really like on a daily basis. It's nice to get into it, start it up, drive it around. It makes, I said this earlier, but it kind of makes every journey just a little bit more enjoyable. It's a fun car to own. Could always use more power, but honestly, I've been happy with the stock level of power for the last 45,000 miles. You can always go crazy, but then it becomes loud and obnoxious and almost undrivable on a daily basis. I feel like the way I've got this car set up right now is basically how I'll have it for the rest of its life, or my ownership of it. I don't plan on selling this car or getting rid of it. I bought it new to hold on to, and maybe one day it'll turn into a race car or something, LS swap it, who knows. But for now, as a daily driver, for me, it's perfect. I absolutely love it. It's been reliable, pretty low cost to maintain and drive. It's a lot of fun to drive. I enjoy it. I think it looks great. It's fuel efficient. There's a lot of storage space and room to put stuff in here. I can go on a road trip with 2 people and we'll have plenty of room for bags. I've driven this car 3,000 miles in a couple weeks out to Montana and back, and we had all of our gear. We filled the trunk full of watermelons and all of our backpacking and tent equipment, and we had plenty of space in here. It was comfortable, it rode great. It was an awesome road trip car. And we had a blast in this thing, and we were able to drive it through some great roads and really do a lot of miles in the car. It's stable at high speeds. It kind of does it all, and it's not perfect, but it kind of gets under your skin, and it really has in my 3 years of ownership. So if you're looking at a new BRZ or a new FRS, the new 2017 model year cars are absolutely fantastic, because those basically take all the mods that I've done to this BRZ and give them to you right from the factory. And the new BRZs and 86s are actually just a little bit more refined too. The engine and transmission feels a little bit smoother. This is a little bit more raw. You get some more, noises from here and there from the engine, and there's maybe just a little bit more NVH as well. Whereas the new cars have kind of smoothed out just a little bit, and that's nice. I appreciate that. It doesn't bother me in this car. It's fine. It's just a difference that I've noticed between the 17s and previous model year 86 platforms. So that kind of sums it up for now. I think I could talk a lot about this car. I personally have just really enjoyed owning it and driving it. I can't wait to bring it out again in the wintertime, put snow tires on it and just slide it everywhere. That's honestly probably some of the most fun I have in this car is in the winter. It gets through just about everything. I throw little tiny pizza cutters on here and the car just performs really well. So
I can't believe that's a Subaru.
It is, isn't it? It's great.
Cool.
Yeah, I love it. And I get some compliments on the car too. People love it. It's funny though, whenever I have the aftermarket track wheels and tires, the SSRs on the car, no one says anything. And then when I throw the stock wheels and tires back on, I get a ton of compliments. Don't quite understand it, but that's just the way it's been. And it's been that way consistently every year whenever I change the wheels and tires. It's funny. Otherwise, great car. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them in a timely manner. And hope to keep driving this thing for another few years and see where things go from there. I don't really see myself getting rid of this. I got a really good deal on it, price-wise. I got 0% financing, so I took a loan out and I'm building my credit by buying this car. It was actually kind of a cool deal and kind of an interesting financial situation that worked out. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong if this is the type of car that you want. If you want something that's just a little bit more visceral, a little bit more fun to drive, it's the right size, it's the right weight. I would probably buy this again. If I had a choice between this and an ND Miata, honestly, for practicality and fun to drive, this and the Miata are about as fun to drive. Maybe the Miata might have just a little bit of an upper hand, but that car is so tight, I just feel a little bit claustrophobic in it, whereas in this I feel like I can breathe. Visibility in this is great. I have these little tiny fisheye mirrors on here, and I love those. They're super awesome for, being able to just see in your blind spots. I put them on a lot of my cars, but on the BRZ they've been especially useful. So anyway guys, that's all I've got to say for now. Thanks for watching. If you want to see some other BRZ videos that I've filmed in the past, check out my channel, and also check out Winding Road Magazine's YouTube channel. There's a lot of BRZ content. Just search on the main page and you can find some other videos. Thanks, we'll see you later.